Chapter 10 Supposition. Starban shifted in his sleep, nearly rolling fully onto his side. Pulling a tender muscle, one eye jolted open, then both eyes opened wide. Finding Gordon staring cautiously back from across the fire and waving gingerly, the old wizard's hand that had been about to whip the blanket off paused. "You're awake," Angelina mumbled. Starben's gaze swiveled to the left, finding the 14-year-old sitting at the fire pit as well. She picked at the food on her plate, popping some meat into her mouth. Noticing his gaze dropping to the plate, she bit her lower lip. "We borrowed some of your gear we found inside," she offered with a shrug. "Now that you're awake, we can cook some food for you, too." Angelina motioned for Gordon to go get some food. The 10-year-old rolled his eyes and grudgingly left the warmth of the fire for the warehouse behind them. A cool breeze rustled hair and swept in under loose clothing. Sarben glanced up and around. Blue sky showed a few clouds and bright sun climbing. It was a little low for midday. "What time is it?" he groaned, dry-mouthed. "Still morning by our count," Angelina reasoned. "Maybe 10 or 11? Why aren't we inside?" Starban brought a hand to his head and closed his eyes, wincing as if suffering a bad headache. "That lightning you did last night made the walls rather shaky," Angelina mused. She shrugged again, nodding as well. "We got what we could out, but the floor fell through in one room, and a few support walls are burned." "Or just not there anymore," Gordon joked. He dropped back in his place by the fire with a plate of wrapped meat in hand. Angelina took the meat and started unwrapping the thick cloth. Gordon grinned across. "That was some show," the 10-year-old added, the grin growing. "Thanks." "How are you doing?" Angelina asked more soberly. "You've been out since doing it, and you kept mumbling in some kind of fever." Starban inspected his right hand and arm. The burn scarring was there, as were several scratches. His robes were torn in places and marked by blue streaks near the bottom hem. The old wizard touched his stomach and sides with a careful hand before raising himself to his side, then lifting himself to rest on one elbow. "I've fared worse," he assured them in a grainy voice. He blinked long and held his head another moment. "And I've fared better," he conceded with an attempted chuckle. The smile faded to a pained expression, and the laugh was stilled. He inhaled deep, exhaling in short, cautious bursts. "I'm missing the school more every day," he mused, flexing his right hand as if working out a kink. "No one misses school," Gordon professed. "I went a year or two before they shut the place down. No one misses school." Starban's smile returned and remained this time. "This school is not just learning, though it is its main function. Yes," he allotted. The old man eased himself up until he was sitting. He gingerly touched his sides again. There were mouthed words lost on the breeze. Though his expression showed strain, his sides flexed in a more relaxed manner. "The school I speak of is home," Starban continued. His voice was more drained now, but he crossed his arms and bowed his eyes. Half the scars on his arms turned flesh-tone and fully healed. They were gone as if never there. "It's a place where a mageborn like myself live in harmony with magic." A momentary scowl. "Most," he quietly allotted. He shook his head as if having decided to not chase that stray thought down. "It's a secure sanctuary for our kind, if nothing else. And bodies do not age as they otherwise normally do." He glanced around, forlorn. "As mine normally ages out here. This long away I'm starting to feel my age, and I don't like it one bit." He flashed them both a sad smile. They nodded back. Angelina set a full pan of meat hanging over the fire pit spit for cooking. "We found this drink in one bag," she explained, offering it across. "It's way too strong for us." "And it tastes awful," Gordon warned. Starban nodded thoughtfully. "It's meant to be strong," he agreed. "And it is an acquired flavor, to be sure." He accepted the drink and dropped some back, physically shivering as he lowered the flask once more. "It wasn't mine," he offered up, "but Dansk wouldn't mind me making use of it. I don't think." "Your apprentice?" Angelina guessed. Starban nodded quietly. "Where is he? We couldn't find him." She paused to mumble unspoken words. "He isn't, gone, is he?" she finally mustered out loud. "No, no." Starban passed a hand over the meat. "Kakaras ini," he whispered. The meat turned a solid cooked color and smelled delicious. Starban smiled, peeling off a top strip. "He's alive," the old wizard assured them. Gordon handed him a plate, staring in awe at the meat. Starban started filling it, still chewing down the first piece. "He was wounded, so I found him a safe place to stay until I can properly heal him," Starban explained when the plate was full and mouth was empty. "What happened after I passed out, anyway?" He glanced expectantly from Angelina to Gordon. "I'm Starban, by the way," he offered Gordon. "Nice to finally meet you in person." "Gordon," Gordon offered in return, still staring at the meat. He was even drooling a little, but was seemingly unsure if the meat was safe to eat. Angelina's gaze took in the surrounding area with a wince before gazing towards Iroquois Falls in the distance. The town's quiet, she muttered, unsure if that was a good thing. Those things left us after you did your lightning. Her gaze fell on the charred carcasses left to rot around the warehouse lots. I think they turned on the town because we can't see anyone anymore. There's so much smoke. I don't know. I think they're all dead. Starben considered those bodies himself, splayed out where they'd been cut asunder. Bugs were gathering and a bad smell was being carried on the wind. He also studied the warehouses where they rose up behind them. He had done some serious damage. One leaned into the next. The warehouse where he and Dansk had rested seemed to shake on the breeze. It would likely fall before the week was out. Why did they leave? Gordon probed. Not that I'm complaining, the 10-year-old assured them. But they weren't even really trying to kill us, right? I mean, they seemed to almost be hurting us near the end. He glanced from Starben to Angelina. Am I wrong? Misdirection was part of my spell at the end, Starben confided. That lightning, as you two might call it, created a charge in the air that dark magic does not like. It flees from it. Higher level beings can resist the spell, yes, but these are lesser creations. Angelina and Gordon locked eyes, blinking wide before staring back across. It's a draining spell, though, as you noticed, Starvin continued. So I couldn't use it until you'd managed to get here where we had walls and a roof. That way we'd have a haven with protection from the elements. At least, the old man offered with a shrug. That was the plan I came up with at the time. He considered those broken walls again with a frown. They'll be back when the spell's worn off, he noted with a resigned nod. Those that weren't killed in the strike, that is, will be back. As for were they hunting you to hurt or kill you, I don't know. I did feel like a bit of both. I know they were trying to kill me. Angelina let Starvin eat and drink before clearing her throat and patting her knees. How do you summon fire? Starvin looked wearily across. Though healed and fed, he was obviously still not fully recuperated. He leaned on his left elbow again and rubbed his brow. Well, that wasn't ordinary fire, though flame's generally always useful against attackers. He smiled as if amused by an internal joke. No, that was more magic than flame, really. Once you know your enemy is born of another, once you're aware it's simply transformed by a product of change at a core base, you adapt your fighting to include the source of undoing, the fire of unbirth. Angelina blinked wide. It had sounded like English, but the explanation made no sense to her whatsoever. I don't understand, she mumbled numbly. Starvin smiled contentedly. And you shouldn't, he professed. Not yet. You aren't trained as yet, are you? For you to understand such things at this point would be dangerous. Fire is as destructive as it can be helpful. So he'd intentionally confused her. Angelina kind of understood his logic and felt better knowing her confusion hadn't been her own fault, but she was still a little perturbed by the whole thing. But I will be, she prompted. Trained. As long as we survive the point of my being down here in the first place, Starvin reasoned. Yes. He rubbed the back of his neck and shook his head. I need more sleep and something more filling. Where's the other one? He asked with a squint. There were 3 of you in the vision and body last night. Simon's around, Angelina groaned. For what it's worth. We set the fire and helped you and all that. He's been off finding holes and apparently laying traps, though I've yet to see any. Starvin nodded pensively. Well, once we get you back to the school, we'll get you 3 trained up right proper. He paused. Angelina had the sense he didn't like the school very much. She also got the sense that he was resigned to this course of action. As much as he didn't like or support either the school or someone in it, she got the feeling it was the better of 2 choices. She couldn't help but wonder what was the other choice, and what he didn't like about the first option. Darban shook his paws quickly off. We are going to take a slight detour to get some herbs. Might cost a day, give or take. It might heal Dansk on the way, and I think I can get what I need en route. To tell the truth, Starvan mused, I could also use a slower pace on the return for my own health. Certainly just now. Starvan's in and exhale were carefully done. He stood and glanced around. I need some herbs here, too, before we go, though there won't be much to dig up. At least it's finally calm enough to look for them. How long do we have before we go? Gordon asked. Before those things come back. Do they hunt during the day? Starben thought a moment. 2 hours if your time count is right. Did you want to stay longer? He asked with a smirk. Gordon rolled his eyes. No, I'm ready to leave already. This town never wanted me in the first place. Good riddance. Angelina ruefully shook her head. I don't really understand anything that's happened here. They don't want us around. No, I get that much. But why steal our winter coats? Why get kids doing jobs adults wouldn't touch? Why turn the crazies loose? She laughed at how ridiculous it must all sound. Why let them keep living in a town in the first place? And that package they had me deliver. What was the point of doing it or sending an order to have the militia turn on their own and head into town? Angelina closed her eyes, feeling as exhausted as she imagined Starbed must be. There has to be an easier way to stalk mages that aren't even mages yet, for that matter. She stood herself and spread her arms wide, exasperated. I dream, so what? He talks to people, she added, gesturing to Gordon. And Simon gets ignored, so what? There's really got to be easier ways to kill us than all this. She paused to hang her head back. It is all connected, right? There is something that makes sense of all this? Starban crossed his arms, glancing at Gordon. Gordon just shrugged, unspeaking. I know as little as you, for sure, Starban replied with a slight wince. These things, he noted, pointing at the charred remains left over from last night's fighting. Algrinai, Gordon mumbled worriedly. Algrinai, Starban corrected. They were once animals transformed into something very much like the Algrinai of legend. Only these Algrinis are weaker and more limited in their fighting skills. They have the weakness to fire that I summoned, which true Algrinai wouldn't. Gordon was nodding, though clearly still unsure what difference there was between the one and the other. As for the madness in your town, Starban mused, I have no doubt it's all connected. It would be horribly coincidental for the introduction of Algrinis to guard town boundaries from the likes of me. It would be highly coincidental for them to come into existence precisely when Dansk and I arrive, to remove you three from the same town that has seemingly erupted in equally uncoincidental madness. The old man frowned and shook his head. The follow-up nod was decisive. No, I have no doubt it's all connected, but I don't know for sure how and why. All I have are theories, which is another reason we will leave in 2 hours, less now. Gordon stood as well, crossing his arms. Why? Simon could be seen stepping up from the nearest warehouse, gazing their way. Starban glanced over and nodded. Because the school I take you to, the old wizard replied, is full of wiser minds than mine. Angelina sensed hesitation there, too. It was clear to her Starban disliked someone at the school, but she also sensed a resigned acceptance that they needed help. They will take our mysteries and find a solution, Starban mustered with a curt nod and polite smile. Angelina wanted to know where she was getting all these insights. She wanted to know if they were true, and why wasn't he sharing his doubts? To protect them? She supposed she didn't share all her thoughts either, and the world and she was better for that restraint at times. She allotted Starban the same privacy, if she was even sensing true thoughts, not just her own doubts. However, she still had to press a different point, one she felt was rather important. What else? She prompted. He gazed across, ever so innocent. We need to be gone before these Algrinis return. We need to return to heal your apprentice, and we need answers. She pursed her lips. I support all that, but you're giving us time, not rushing us off, tired or not. You're not one to hold back. I've been in your head and seen through your eyes. Though not in my mind, Starvin challenged. Angelina's expression turned sour. She almost challenged that one, but she didn't. Maybe you just remind me of someone I used to know, she offered defensively instead. Wait. She had it. She knew what he wasn't telling them. Who could make Algrinis like these? Starvin cleared his throat. Simon stepped in closer while Gordon glanced from Angelina to the old wizard, trying to follow the conversation. He clearly felt he was missing something. A wizard who knows spells few are privy to, Starvin conceded. These Algrinis are not of human making, or they'd be more cloned, more similar, not individual, and the Algrinis would be tagged for tracking purposes. They are not, which means someone is following and leading them by magical means. So you'd be leading us into a school of wizards where the same magicker might be hiding, Angelina reasoned. Starban sighed, then shrugged. But we really don't have anywhere else to go, Angelina grudgingly added. Exactly, Starban agreed, resigned. Hence the haste. Yet not haste. And I am honestly still quite tired. At least you're all leaving Iroquois Falls. There's something to that. As for the rest, we'll just make up plans en route to deal with whatever the road ahead holds for us. I'm planning on going south, Simon professed. Starvin smiled. He patted the 17-year-old on the shoulder as he passed. Of course you are, the old man mumbled. Angelina took a few steps towards town to try and figure out what she was feeling. They just survived the most active and violent game of stalkers anyone had ever played, and they were leaving a horrible, mad town for a school where she would learn to use magic. There were no words for how great that made her feel. But the enemy responsible for all her misery could be waiting at the same school. And this hike north to a place she'd never known could be just the beginning of something worse. And there were still so many unknowns. It was like the mysteries just kept swelling up around them. Or they were just sinking further down into untold inky depths. Never ending? What to make of that? We made it, Gordon cheered, stepping up beside her. I didn't really think we would. He shrugged dismissively. Nothing personal. Angelina nodded. I didn't give us much hope either, she joked. Not really. I just don't like giving up. It's not my nature. Gordon smiled. Angelina found a grin. Let the mysteries figure themselves out. Yeah, she agreed. We made it. We're going to find ourselves a home where we don't need to hide anymore. Her glance took in Simon where he stood, glaring after Starben, who was chuckling to himself, climbing up the steps to those shaky warehouses. None of us, Angelina asserted. None of us will ever have to hide who we are, ever again.